and I'm not sure why. It makes no sense. Here's one thing I don't like about YouTube. They're panning and scanning the tops and bottoms of a 1.33 ratio, okay? You know what I'm talking about, video heads out there. We're getting right into it here. This is all killer, no filler. Ooh, do we need more light? Hold on. Let's try that. Yeah, that's a nice chiaroscuro kind of looking. Yeah. I was watching the Godfather commentary tracks on YouTube. I always wanted there to be commentary tracks available freely on the internet, and lo and behold, they're on YouTube finally. You can watch all three. A lot of DVD commentary tracks they've put on YouTube. Well, okay, so this is one thing YouTube does, I guess, just maybe on the phone. Maybe it's a phone thing, I don't know, but a 1.33 image is like an old TV screen, 3 to 4. It's more like the proportions of a human face. Whereas everything HD, 1080p by 1920 is cinematic. It's CinemaScope. It's widescreen, which is something the movies developed in the 50s to sort of counteract and the effects of television and the way that television was stealing the audience. Then TV started imitating the movies in the 2000s with HD, and so now but now we've got vertical, right? We have portrait mode, and so the phone kind of has once again swiped everybody's orientation and kind of reoriented it again, and so now when you're watching a YouTube video and you flip it horizontal, like if you're watching, let's say a Tonight Show from the 70s, which are somewhat available on YouTube, you flip it horizontal and boom, all of a sudden it lops off the top and bottom of the image. I think that's what it seems like it's been doing in order to flush the image to the edges of the screen horizontally. So it's actually different than the pan and scan, which was the opposite, where they would cut off the sides of the image. It's just interesting how these adaptations are built on other adaptations, and they're all kind of reactions against some other technology. Oh, we got to innovate, or this is how it is now. I mean, I, for one, right, I studied movies and stuff, filmmaking, in an era before iPhones and kind of like the whole. And so the idea of portrait orientation feels like it's absurd to me. I'm not going to film anything in portrait, vertical. All the YouTube stories or reels, I'm sorry, they're not stories. Reels. They're trying to get us to film vertically to compete with TikTok, I guess, and Instagram and whatnot in these things, which are phone-centric. I mean, YouTube, I suppose, theoretically, it's based on television, right? It's YouTube. It's weird. It's sort of a freely available public access. It's kind of defeated the purpose of public access. I keep seeing all these articles about the death of television, basically. The death of cable, how it's just like the viewership is going way, way down. The audience they can rely on, I guess, is boomers. Boomers, they are the TV generation. So they're used to it. It's like, it's their speed, it's their home, in the same way that we're phone junkies or whatever. I mean, for people our age, millennials and younger, we live in this time of instant and total choice. And so YouTube, right, you can just call up any kind of, like, okay, this is a Comedy Central thing from the 90s that I remember seeing. This guy was pretty funny. It was the Cam Neely, I think, Foundation benefit, which was like a Boston. He was a hockey player, I think. And so a lot of comedians are from Boston, right? Dennis Leary, Louis from Boston, for crying out loud. And so I don't remember seeing Louis on this, but it was a lot of comedians from Boston. Nick DiPaolo, I think. This guy, Steve something. I don't remember his name, but I do remember seeing him in the 90s on Comedy Central and thinking this dude's hilarious. You know, I never saw him in a TV show or a movie or anything. And yet there he is. He's doing his Parc de Card, Harvard Yard, or whatever the fuck he's talking about. It's all very Boston-centric. I don't know what it is about Boston. I guess it's proximity to New York. And just the kind of intellectual ale. Samuel Adams and drinking and barroom conversation, maybe, right? Conan's from there. Brookline, Jonathan Richman. Probably the greatest contemporary entertainer, Jonathan Richman. One of my personal heroes. The thing that's great about Jonathan Richman, he's just like this itinerant traveling troubadour. He just plays these little gay, 60, 80, 100 people, 150 people, maybe a little more. And he travels around with Tommy Larkins. Yeah, so TV, legacy TV, the audience is dying. It's like a McLuhan thing. These technologies are reactions against the previous technologies. They incorporate things from the previous technologies, but they also have to differentiate themselves. Like YouTube, you can watch any Jerry Lewis telethon or check out my fall syllabus. I'm compiling my fall syllabus. I think YouTube is the new reading. Turn the subtitles on and you get your reading basically, especially the poetry readings. I encourage people who watch my videos, all of the videos, turn the subtitles on. And I was thinking about this, even when people are watching Netflix and shit now, the subtitles are on, usually. I don't know if people are still doing that, but that was true a couple years ago. I think it's reading. I think in a weird way, right, it's like a McLuhan thing. The phone is a visual medium, but it's also like a throwback. It's like a text medium. Like people don't use the phone to talk on the phone. Even though it's a phone, if you call somebody, it's like a personal affront now. It's like this invasion of privacy, or like it's like you're bayoneting somebody by calling them on the phone, and it's like you use it to text, right? You use it to read. Actually, I get up, I read the New Yorker, whatever I can read, the New York Times, the Drudge. Read fucking, I don't use X anymore. I haven't used X in a few months. I absolutely refuse. But it is weird, and so it kind of makes sense that people would be reading the videos, and I encourage people to put the subtitles on, especially with any of the videos that are, it's election time, everybody. I think never forget, okay? Never forget how they fucked Bernie. And how we're going to get stuck with Biden, who rematch. I mean, what do people expect anything different? Like, don't you understand American politics it sucks. Like the Biden era is not glamorous, but hey, it's better than what we had. Is it? I mean, isn't it? Is it worse? It feels stable. Maybe that's an illusion, but who the fuck knows? I guess, do we want to go into that? Nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, I think that's okay. After the insane obsession, just being the immersive experience of the trauma era, President Trauma, 45. They're starting to put him on, he was on Meet the Press. Anyway, somehow it's going to be, I mean, they were talking about how it's an unprecedented thing, like a lot of Trump things, obviously, trauma things. He's the only president, obviously, who's running, who's being, like, prosecuted. He's the only former president that's running again in, like, 100 years. No one's done that. No ex-president has run again. Stalker, ex-boyfriend, president. Oh, God. He can't. I mean, America sucks. I was listening to this New York Times podcast. It was super... It worked, The American Disease. And I thought, okay, maybe they're going to talk shit about work. And it was like a First of all, the first half wasn't about that at all. The first half was about, uh, I don't even fucking remember, the economy or something. But the second half was about, the pandemic, UBI, 15-hour work week. Okay, the auto workers strike, right? Like, the auto workers are striking because they want a 4-day work week, 32 hours, which is pretty reasonable, I think. I think no one is saying, like, you don't work ever. Like, it's just like work-life balance, right, is the phrase everyone's obsessed with. To me, it's more about, like, incorporating work into your life, making your life, because you want your life to be interesting. You don't want it to be like, oh, 32 hours a week, my life sucks because I have to go and fucking be in this place that I hate, and my work-life balance is okay, though, because then I get, 70 hours a week to not kill myself, to barbecue or go boating or, binge drink, bludgeon myself into unconsciousness with alcohol poisoning, mild alcohol poisoning, or psychedelics or whatever you're into. I was reading some Gregory Corso books. I'd like to talk about those. Gregory Corso, Long Live Man. And Elegiac Feelings American, which is like his Kerouac. Enjoy the... maybe I'll talk about some of the books that I've got here. Maybe I should talk about Philip's book. This is according to Jim, of course, so enjoy the according to Jim clips. Copyright Jim Belushi. So yeah, anyway, Long Live Man. That's not gendered or anything. This came out in the early 60s, and he's got outer space on the cover. So that's pretty, he was thinking ahead. And then this one, Elegiac Feelings American. This was the end of the 60s. I think these were his two books in the 60s. So there's kind of the bookends. The optimism, the hope, the beginning, and, the Hells Angels at Altamont. Kerouac died. Gregory Corso, I don't know. He always kind of talks shit about Kerouac. You can tell he was kind of glad that he outlived him. I don't know. The thing that strikes me about Gregory Corso's stuff is, like, it's almost like essays or something. It reminds me of, like, Shelley's essay about whatever, poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world, on that. Because, he's got a big Shelley thing, but it's like, it's all very rhetorical and lengthy. He's going on. I mean, these stanzas are like, they're Whitman-esque, I suppose you might say. I think that's maybe part of what he was going for. But they're also sort of conversational, almost just like he's lecturing. There's these little poetic phrases that kind of jump out that where the music really kind of shines, that are kind of in there. But a lot of it really is just like his kind of... He's got a really interesting perspective about, the dehumanization of the modern society and all these things that started to happen that people don't really talk about quite so much anymore. He talks about, replica, machines... teachers and fucking, basically all of the people we're supposed to listen to in our societies. They're just creating kind of, they want us to all think the same, They want us to be replicas and to sort of, just fall into, to be conformists and to all have the same opinions and stuff. There's a lot of ideas like that. I guess those are hippie ideas. The reason I started reading this, a lot of the people I admire point to Corso and respect him a lot, but I follow Raymond Foy, or I'm friends with Raymond Foy, on Facebook, just because I admire Raymond Foy. If you don't know who Raymond Foy is, he was sort of like, he worked at City Lights, and he was sort of like a, I don't know, protege of, and I don't know, kind of a biographer, or just sort of like an apprentice, or like almost like a administrator to the older poets. Like, he was friends with John Wieners. He edited and put out, I think, John Wiener selected Hanneman Editions, I think, was Raymond Foy. Those really cool small books that, I mean, they're amazing. There's a Taylor Mead Hanneman and a Richard Hell and a John Wieners and a Robert Creeley and Ashbery and you name it. And Eileen Miles Hanneman. If you ever see them, I mean, they're collector's items. They're always expensive. But Raymond Foy was friends with Gregory Corso. He lived in the Chelsea Hotel, right? I think now he lives upstate. He lives in Woodstock or something. But I'm friends with him on Facebook. That's one of the things that's cool about Facebook is like you can fucking. He's always posting shit about. He's looking for. He's always posting about Harry Smith. Harry Smith has sort of been a recurring thing recently. He's looking for certain. He's got new books coming out, or he's doing his talk, or blah blah blah. He's looking for certain information, and so he had this post the other day about he was looking for poems or pieces of art that were sort of about the arc of the '60s and the kind of death of the dream, or just that journey, of the '60s. Man, I mean, I know we're sick of hearing about the '60s. I've always idolized the '60s. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think the music was incredible. There was definitely something going on that was very interesting. And there was a human beauty to a lot of the art. The beats were a big part of that. But they also were catalyzed and spurred on by other things, They were, things like Harry Smith. And so one of the things that people mentioned was this poem, Elegiac Feelings American, which is about Kerouac dying, right? Jack Kerouac dying and sort of the death. He keeps calling Kerouac a tree. He's a walking flat-bottomed tree or something. And we are, friends with the trees and all this stuff. And I mean, there's definitely a lot of things in here about, white oppressors and white people stealing shit, and there's a whole poem to what is it called, Spontaneous Requiem for the American Indian. I mean, at the time that was progressive, at the time that was Gregory Corso kind of relishes in just profanity and just bald-faced kind of saying like mouthing off. He's kind of a mouthy. The beats are like the Little Rascals. And Corso is kind of this cantankerous Bowery boy, Hunts Hall or something. There's also all these really cool kind of handwritten Egyptian kind of influence things in here. For a New Directions paperback that came out, in the '60s, to have actual handwritten pages and drawings and stuff in is pretty cool. But, I always thought this is super just windy, or it's just too many words. He should have economized more. But now I kind of see, I don't know, it's like, he reminds me of my dad. They both kind of have this antisocial approach. Or, I don't know, it's about preserving humanity and kind of mammal humanity. It's an approach to hygiene, like cutting your own hair. The whole hippie, just letting it grow, letting your natural pheromones. Corso does seem kind of representative of some kind of Dionysian, as opposed to the Apollonian. And, we've kind of, we want to overlook and neglect that part of American poetry, I feel like, for the past few decades. It's like, where is that presence? Where is the kind of dirty bum heckler, saying the F word or whatever at the reading? That's if you watch any clip of Corso, he's always a pain in the ass and being vulgar. I don't know. That's a part of the art. That's a part of the poetry being a home, or sort of like a sanctuary, or a place where the overlooked or the neglected or the shunned or the outcast, qualities that aren't necessarily. So it's raining. It's like a tropical storm. I guess it's September. It's hurricane season in New York and on the eastern seaboard. It's always like this in September. There's always these weekends where it's cold and clammy and wet. It's just kind of drowsy and it's just kind of sneezing rain. But it's nice, you know, you get to stay inside. And I mean, you know, Hurricane Sandy was sort of like the furthest expression of that. That was over a decade ago at this point, but there's always kind of near misses that bring in this weather that's like sort of like damp and the beginning of autumn. You know, the temperature has sort of like ramped down, I'd say about 20 degrees or so abruptly, it seems like. I mean, that autumnal equinox, that curve really is like a curb. It really is like a bank down. And so the leaves are going to start to change. It's the 1 year anniversary of the open mic on Monday. We literally started September 19th last year, a couple days before the autumn equinox. So we're doing our 1 year on the 25th, coming up this Monday. I've got a lot of people signed up, so it should be a blast. Black tie strongly encouraged for those who can be there in person. Of course, for those watching at home, I mean, put on a tuxedo, put on a gown, get some champagne, and really do it up, put on some fancy music. It's make-believe ballroom time, okay? It's magic time on Monday night. So I've got tons of shit coming up in this next week. And so I'm sort of trying to prepare for that. But I haven't live streamed in 2 weeks, so I feel like I need to get on. And my last live stream was so popular. Please like and... This one is kind of, I don't know. Obligatory. Not obligatory. I should have got on and did one last week, but I do want to get in there. And people never like the ones where I have the TV for some reason. I work very hard on these Stream Bulges compilations, and people don't really... They're kind of ironic, sarcastic, but they're also like, if you don't care about what I'm saying, you can watch this. Just watch that, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can even tell what the fuck it is, but yeah. So I have all these fucking gigs. We're going to Yale next weekend. We'll be reading at Yale. Thanks as always to Ashley for the invitation. I mean, it's going to be spectacular. I can't wait to take the train and go to New Haven, Connecticut, and see where Indiana Jones taught. And we're going to be reading directly to the Skull and Bones. We will be delivering our messages and our poetry directly to the Skull and Bones Society, to the future presidents who will be conducting the next wars in the Middle East 10 years from now. So we're going to go and read our freaky, light-bringing wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom, I guess. That's something that, I try to get into, but it also seems like, I don't know, it's not as hard to write. I don't know. Like, you can just write your opinions about stuff. That's why I wanted to read it, because it's like I do want to get in touch with thinking about the bigger picture and using that as a subject, which is something I do try to do in my talks. We're gearing up for election season. It's going to get political, people. Get ready. But for now, it's just about Weezer. So yeah, the Weezer cruise. It is raining and windy and cold outside, but I think the show must go on, I think. And so I was watching the Godfather commentary tracks, and Francis Ford Coppola says anytime there's extreme weather, he gets psyched. He's like, oh, yeah, of course we want to shoot now because it adds something. It's like free special effects, he said. It's like getting free special effects. I'm like, kind of makes sense in a way. If you add weather to a scene, it kind of adds an element that's poetic or maybe raises the stakes. There's always, I mean, what's more poetic than the weather, right? And so to actually have, I remember doing outdoor Shakespeare, and it would thunder or something, and you're like, wow, do you remember when it thundered, when he said thunder or whatever? Remember when there was a rainbow over the last scene or whatever? That always makes it seem way mind-blowingly pathetic, because life is magic, okay? Life is magic is what the message is here. You don't really have to do a lot. You just let it happen, and you just let God speak. And so it's going to be our King Lear. It's Rivers Cuomo's King Lear. I'm taking my inspiration from the Gene Simmons Tongue magazine spread where Rivers Cuomo had this fuzzy goatee, so I don't think I'm going to shave. This will be an opportunity to wear different costumes. And Jason T. Cucker is super down, and Ashley is super down, so what can I do? I mean, I'm a little bit apprehensive because I do have all these other shows coming up, and I have to work. I have to work on Tuesday. I have to film this art talk, and so I really have to have my shit together. I mean, it's the 1 year anniversary on Monday. I have to film this art talk on Tuesday. That's a big job, and it's money that I need. Wednesday, I have this amazing show at Hellphone. Good Potential Productions. Shout out to Claire Lichtenstein. Thanks for having me. I'm super stoked about it, so I got to figure out what the fuck I'm doing for that. I'll probably do a talk piece, like this. So look forward to that. In person, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll do my Mr. Feeney impression. Everybody loves impressions, right? No comedians do impressions anymore. I can't believe this. I've seen so many fucking stand-up comedians. I don't think I've seen any of them do an impression. Is that a hack move? I don't think I've seen a single comedian do an impression except for me. I love impressions. I think they're funny, but nobody does impressions. Are they hacks? Are they for hacks? So what? I'll do my Mr. Feeney. I'll do my Charles Grodin. I'll do the whole cast. The whole gallery of characters. I'll do my my John Giorno. That's a rare one. I haven't really done that one. The first time I ever did stand-up comedy, I did my John Giorno impression. You can imagine how that went. So this is another book of the day. I never knew what time it was. David Anton. These are the talk pieces, everybody. This is what a talk piece looks like, okay, as a poem. David Anton would do these improvised talk pieces, which are sort of like stand-up comedy, but they're not really funny or anything intentionally. I mean, they might be funny, but that's not really his point. He's like an art critic. He's talking a lot about, you know, modern art and shit in this book, working for Art News with Ashbury, and it's very California. I do feel like his style, because he moved to San Diego, and so these books were published after he had lived in San Diego for a long time. And it does feel like kind of a spacious... There's a lot of light in these poems, you know, these susurras and stuff. There's a lot of light coming through, and there's kind of branchy and leafy. But they're transcriptions of his talks. He would record his talks, he would transcribe them, and then he would, you know, he would edit them and sort of... I don't know how much punching up he does. I think he would tweak this or that, but he doesn't use punctuation at all. He's like a David Anton. He wasn't like a Black Mountain, but he came out of like that 50s kind of beat moment. He was good friends with Jerry Rothenberg, and he was a part of that whole kind of Paul Blackburn. You know, I don't know where fucking David Anton would do poetry readings in the 60s. Would he do Café Le Metro? I'm not sure. I suppose he probably would. His first few books are actual poems, or these short meditations and stuff. They came out on Black Sparrow Press, right? Which is kind of the most, I don't know, illustrious of the small presses. They really have these incredible, incredible books. Black Sparrow Press. I probably shouldn't talk about them on my live stream because now they'll blow up in value. This is Iron J from the 90s. See, I'm just trying to pollute people with the garbage that... my poetry is a landfill, okay? It's all just a landfill. The landfill is the metaphor for the modern age. It's all just throw every piece of shit in the... we're creating so much non-biodegradable trash, like Iron J. We'll never get rid of this stuff. It's bad for you. It'll kill you. It'll give you, No, I won't even say it. I won't even say it. It's too... But yeah, check out David Anton, his talk pieces. They're a lot like Gene Shepard. Okay, you may have heard me talk about Gene Shepard, but you know, I've been basically using the last few days as sort of a monastic. You may have noticed in the flyer. I'm into reading again. Who knew I'd get in? I mean, maybe it's just because it's autumn. I don't know why. I feel, you know, a hunger to be serious about knowledge. Maybe it's because I'm doing all these poetry readings and people just think I'm a joke writing about. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I want more dimension. I like writing about what happens and letting the secretions of the day kind of add up and have that be that is that it's the poem kind of expands out from that. You extrapolate into real life from that. The poem is just the sort of residue or whatever. But the living, right? I'm getting back into these street poets, right? Well, it's partially because I have my books back. I've been just sort of, because I got to get my shit out of the storage. That's kind of my main crisis, my main anxiety right now. I'm full of anxiety. And it's because I just, I got to get my shit out of the storage place. They're just bilking me for so much money. But, thankfully, I have my books. So, I really haven't had my books since February. That's 7 months. And so, I do think it's important to read the book of life and the book of other human beings. And to spend time with other human beings. That's something that, what the fuck? In Philip's book, The Suitcase Tree. We went to Philip's birthday reading. Shout out to Philip Marinovich, our guru. He's our guru. He teaches us about freaky life in Central Park. We go night swimming with Philip, the Maharishi. And he teaches us about presence. He's our Philip Whalen. We walk across the Golden Gate Park of Central Park, looking at the Rodin sculptures and USA Poetry with Kenneth Koch and Jason T. Cocker and the Weezer play and Frank O'Hara and Ash and John Ashbery, of course. What the fuck is... Do I have to watch this whole ad? Oh, this is a video that I put on. Israeli pizza. These videos are a little outdated. They're 6 months old. I compiled this playlist 6 months ago. So these references are all kind of way behind, but I had to throw something up there. So yeah, Philip was talking about interconnectivity, interpenetration. He spends a lot of time and he's friends with a lot of poets. That's a big part of his practice, I think, is actually spending time hanging out with poets. And his book is full of thanks and acknowledgments, and it's full of all the poets that he knows. I could be better about that. I would say that's one of the things that I've always been protective of, is like my solitude and spending time alone. I love spending time alone, and that's what reading is all about. And especially if you're trying to be a writer, that's one of the indulgences or the requirements of the trade. The economics of who gets to write and who has time and space and to be alone. And but at the same time, I think I have missed out a lot on hanging out with people. A lot of times I will restrict my saying yes to things or just lending myself to life because it's like, no, I don't want to get caught up in anything, and I'd rather just be alone with my thoughts. Reading the book of my own thoughts constantly, broadcasting them. Let's skip the there's the Israeli pizza video. I don't know. That's what I did when I was in that apartment. I had this incredible rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan. What did I do? I spent most of the time alone because it was just a luxury, And I had all my books there, and, a book is sort of a way to interact with another human mind, but, kind of on your own terms, and... Not that I don't, I'd like to be more porous. I'd like to be with people more, and to be less afraid and to be less sensitive. That's part of it, I guess, is I get... Ribelsis. We're brought to you by Ribelsis. Gallbladder problems may occur. If you start suffering pancreatitis, stop taking immediately. But ask your doctor today about Ribelsis. See, I'm exposing, right? This is about exposing and underlining. That should be illegal. They should not be able to come into my fucking YouTube live streams and advertise for a drug that's going to give people pancreatitis and gallbladder problems. I don't want my viewers experiencing that. I want to protect my fan base. My one person out there watching, thank you for watching and thank you for the like. I'm sorry I had to mute the comments. But, you know, this is meant to be viewed at any time. You know, it's on demand. This is scenes from a life on demand. That's the beauty of YouTube. That's why I use it. That's why it's probably only a matter of time before they take it away from us. It's just too good. We can just go directly, like Russell Brand. He was too powerful. No, he should be in jail. Put Russell Brand in jail. I never liked him. He was always a bimbo, a male bimbo. And so, are we surprised? Hey, you reap what you sow, buddy. It's not because of his YouTube videos. Believe me. Okay? It's all true. What they're saying about him, I'm sure, is all true. And it's not because he's talking about the vaccine or whatever. But we won't go into that. What is this? This is some kind of... See, I'm trying to appeal to video game people. Look, see, I've got video games in my live stream now. Don't we love that? I've got a new viewer, this guy in South Dakota. Shout out to him. He's commented on a couple... I'm curious what he likes about my videos. He's been very positive. This SRO video, if you watch my single room occupancy video, for some reason it gets like a lot of views for some reason. Check it out. It's pretty much exactly like all my other videos. If you like that one, watch the other ones, you know? Especially my most recent one. Maybe I should put that one on. Cash Only. I really think that was one of my better vlogs. It's got the Weezer play in it. It's got the Brooklyn Rail reading in it. You know, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to work harder on everything that I do. Spruce it up a little bit. And so reading... I do, you know, like for these vlogs. Or these are more like my talk streams. I did feel like reading a bunch of stuff was necessary. It's like, well, what, you know... I need information, right? Books are traditionally the place where you're going to find the most thought over, kind of refined, tested, lasting information. I guess that's the... You know, I'm worried about books. This is something I do want to talk about because I do think that the pandemic was like a hinge in the medium. I tend to view things in that way, but like... The cost of books has gone up, right? I have a line in one of my poems, the dollar rack's my only place in society. Let me turn this light up. You know, now there are no dollar racks. The Strand, it's $3 to $7, you know? So I hit a lick the other day because I won't stand for that. You know, that's absurd. That's, you know, it completely changes books from being something that are almost just like lended and freely available. It's almost like they're giving them away, you know, because there are a lot of them. You know, it's not easy to move books. It's costly to store them sometimes. To like an antique, now it's like a collector's item. I don't know, the cost of publishing on Lulu, right? That self-publishing website. The cost of ink and paper. I think printer's ink is I read somewhere it's one of the most expensive liquids in the world. And so you can kind of see the writing on the wall with printed books. I mean, I'm sure there will still be books and everything, but it's changing over to being like vinyl or something, where it's like, is this really going to continue to be... I mean, I don't know. I guess we're maybe a long way from that. There will probably always be books, but... Do people read? Even I didn't read. I mean, for the past few years, because of my own... I don't know, I just felt like I needed to draw more inspiration from what was around me in real life. I didn't necessarily... I do think that can be a problem, too, for writers. There's too much academia. There's too much getting everything from books. You know, like, experience, I think... Going through things, going through changes, forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, and going through different kind of emotional thresholds, I think is what... Oh, you fuckers. I can't believe they're putting all these ads all over my... I do not support Adobe, by the way. I support bootlegs of FCPX and anything that's free and open source. Is there a LibreOffice of video editing? Is there a Keltex, the screenwriting software? I don't know if that's still free, but that used to be free. Yeah, so, but books do seem like a necessary, like, reading is like working at your brain in a way that sitting on your ass watching YouTube videos. I don't know, right? Could it it doesn't, you definitely feel physically in your brain when you're reading. You feel like this muscle working, or I don't know. I think because like your brain is where most of, I think it's where there's more there's more nerves in your brain than anywhere else in your body, right? Like, so there's more feeling theoretically, right? I'm sure that's not an exact equation, but like, I think when you're feeling that, you are literally feeling your brain activity. When you're feeling that pleasure or that workout or that comprehension, cognitive velocity, cognitive, like bicep working, like you're burning energy, right? This was a theory I came upon. It's profane illumination. It's profane illumination. Getting high by reading. But it's also kind of workout. I mean, you're using energy. Your brain is using a lot of energy to understand things, to read, like this Corso. That's one of the things that's important about reading poetry is it is difficult, right? Like my shit, I purposefully make it hard to read because you're meant to go back and read it again and read it again and read it again until you have to work at it. And you have to kind of piece it together of your own. The Corso poems felt like that. There's a lot of phrasing and there's a lot of thoughts that he's putting across to you, a lot of formulations and comparisons and similes and things that are like a little hard to... That's what makes him a poet. That makes it a little bit more dense. It makes it a little more impactful. It makes it a little bit more concentric, kind of emanating than prose or something that's maybe a little more easy to just sort of flow through. Everybody wants fucking easy. Stephen King, as everybody, and even smart people are like, oh yeah, I love Stephen King. And not, maybe Stephen King is great. I was watching this video with Stephen King talking about how I think writing is a trance state. You're talking yourself into a trance. He talks about how he has the same routine every time. He gets tea and blah, blah. He watches the news, he gets tea, and then he sits down and blah, blah, blah. Because he needs to get in that trance. And it's like, I don't think writing is I mean, it can be, but if you're asleep... I mean, he's Stephen King. He's coming up with the nightmares for a whole society. And I get what he's saying. It definitely is a trance state in the same way that this is a trance state. Or flow state, right, is what he's talking about, basically. Music, improv. He's right, but also like you want to be awake and you want to be making decisions and you want to be challenging yourself, right? And there are little, when you're writing, when you're talking, there are little roadblocks or whatever where you're like, oh, what's the right word? I got to come up with the right word. If you're just taking the easy way, if you're Stephen King, writing, he said he writes 3.5 hours a day or something, 3 hours a day. And look how many fucking books he's written. Look how long his books are. I mean, nothing against... I've never actually read a fucking Stephen King book. I think he had something McSweeney's I looked at once. I don't know. Maybe he seems very 70s to me. He seems like the Bob Seger of literature. But I love the Stand miniseries with Randall Flagg and MOON. So, I mean, obviously, it's crazy how... Is he our Shakespeare? I mean, there's more fucking Stephen King stories, probably, in our common... The Shining, for Christ's sake, right, is fucking Stephen King. So, not to knock Stephen King or anything, but you know, there's genres of writing and styles and approaches that touch different parts of your brain, just like with music or anything. And so, but why not Stephen King? You know, the train is the other thing. I'm on the fucking train a lot because I live in the middle of nowhere, and but it's a monastery, right? The train is a monastery. We are all silently meditating in our pews, avoiding eye contact. We're deep in prayer. We're deep in contemplation. What choice do we have? You know, amongst the bustle, amongst the intrusive sound in the society, um, it's a place for study. It's a place for quiet study. You know, I love writing on the train, but I hate writing that references the train. I don't ever want to mention the subway in any of my poetry, which is hard when you're writing, you know, because I'm such a presence junkie and I always write about where I am. The train in Midwood to is actually, it's almost like a French countryside. It's a very photogenic, beautiful. I think it's in the Squid and the Whale. These outdoor platforms that are kind of cut into the ground. There's trees. It's a nice. You know, I love mass transit, and you know, riding. What could be better than riding on a train, particularly if you have a view of kind of the Brooklyn countryside? And so, I mean, this is further out than Whitman. This is way further out, and so it's not a bad place to get some work done. And reading, here I am. YouTube is no substitute. Even though, you know, my playlist, check out my video literature playlist, they are meant to, the summer reading list and the fall syllabus, they are meant to kind of fill out, for those who are interested, you know, go on and watch those Paul Mazursky movies. Go on and watch Next Stop Greenwich Village. Go on and watch Willie and Phil. Go and watch the Brian De Palma Hi Mom. Go watch they go watch They All Laughed. It's not on the playlist, but go watch A Thousand Clowns. You know, those are the kind of background. Go watch John Brent in Bible Land, you know. Go watch Wavy Gravy's 50th birthday party. That's all that stuff that went into trying to create an atmosphere for a cabaret poetry thing in downtown Manhattan, because that's where those people did it. You know, those were all my heroes in what I was trying to do, a kind of show business. That's the environment that Bob Dylan came out of. That's the environment that Taylor Mead, the Gaslight, right? Corso, Allen Ginsberg, Peter Orlovsky, Diane DePrima, Kathleen Frazier, I think, Joel Oppenheimer, Paul Blackburn. That moment, that pre-rock and roll moment, beat, quote unquote, there was a lot of people reading their poetry. It wasn't all excrement, verbal diarrhea, beat, you know, parchment or whatever. It was, there was a lot of, Black Mountain was very present. Amiri Baraka, Leroy Jones. Fielding Dawson, the Cedar Tavern, all that stuff. You know, that's all stuff I was trying to get in the playlist. And those movies are visualizations kind of that environment, right? Next Stop Greenwich Village is like, this is Cafe Reggio in the 50s. This is McDougal Street in the 50s. And then Willie and Phil is more about it in the 80s or late 70s, right? It's sort of a modern. They're at Bleecker Street Theater. They're in Washington Square Park. He's a photographer. And so these are just different versions of kind of New York, I guess, of the 20th century, but the, you know, the artistic lineage that we're trying to play into, or, you know, and it comes down through the Poetry Project, places like that, or Bowery Poetry Club, or New Eurekan, or Parkside Lounge, or fucking Jefferson Market Library. You know, if you go to the Poetry Project, if you see Penny Arcade, if you go to Pangea, right? This is the same thing. And so the playlist is meant to, you know, if you want to have an easy but educational. I know for me, and maybe this is just from the pandemic, but like I'm like addicted to having sound on. It's like a security blanket for me. And so even when I was reading yesterday, reading this book, I had the fucking Godfather commentary on. So I'm like sort of half listening to the Godfather commentary and half reading Gregory Corso. Speaking of which, let me read this poem real fast. This is a good one. This is a good mafia poem. I mean, he grew up, Gregory Corso was an Italian from Greenwich Village. I think he was born on Bleecker Street, right? His parents lived on fucking Bleecker Street. God damn it, is it in this book? It's damn it all. Okay, here it is. East Side Incidents. This is a good one. East Side Incidents. Aside from ash cans and hall johns and pigeon coops, there were the sad backyards, the hot July stoops. There were those mad Valenti kids who killed my cat with an umbrella. There was Dirty Myra, who screwed the rabbi's son in the cellar. And there was Vito and Tony and Robbie and Rocco. I see them now, eating poisoned mushrooms and vomiting air, killing Mr. Bloom, the storekeeper, and getting the chair. I see them now, but they aren't there. There's a lot of rhymes in this, right? It's got that kind of street patter, right? That's hip, I guess. So this was the Lower East Side, the East Side incidents in what, the 30s or whatever, the 40s. So it's got Vito and Tony and Robbie and Rocco. Those could be guys from The Godfather or something. It's the hot July stoops, the sad backyards. Now it's generation gentrification. It's a bunch of bankers and financiers and whatnot. But, we're trying to honor or whatever, I don't know. Not that's why we moved to New York. We moved to New York to be a part of that. Not necessarily, getting the chair, but the poetry, right? We moved to New York to be a part of, this is where, you came. Allen Ginsberg lived in my friend's building, on East 12th Street. And it still is. It still is the city of poetry and the city of poets. I mean, rich people have always done poetry. That's nothing new. They're the only ones who can, practically. That was one of the things about the beats that was significant. I mean, Gregory Corso being an example of just like, he was a juvenile delinquent. He was in jail. He was self-educated. He was sort of an autodidact. He started reading Shelley and that kind of shit when he was in prison. He was in, Sing Sing or whatever the fuck it was. He was like Merle Haggard or something. He was doing life without parole. 21 in prison. It was like that kind of situation. But he also has this kind of highly persuasive, kind of rhetorical style. And as you can see, his music, especially at that time, it was kind of an update. It rhymes, but it sounds kind of new. It sounds kind of hip. It doesn't sound like, it's aware of what Shelley or Keats or, people in the 19th century did or before, but it's also sounds like, a bar or the Bowery or some shit, Oh, I've got all these Jay Leno videos. I think this is Jay Leno right after 9/11. This book, The Holy Barbarians, by Lawrence Lipton, is sort of, since we're focused on books, this is a book I look for forever. I can't remember where I got it, but I got it recently. It's all about the beat culture in Venice, California in the 50s. And it's written by Lawrence Lipton, who is James Lipton's father from Inside the Actor's Studio. You may remember James Lipton, the bearded, sycophantic host. And just great. I mean, we love Inside the Actor's Studio. We love James Lipton for bringing pretentious French-style interview depth and you know, I loved Bravo. Bravo was like the intellectual cable channel. You know, that's where I first saw Larry Sanders. They reran Larry Sanders. I saw Box of Moonlight on Bravo. They had like an independent cinema Friday night thing. I think I saw $20 on Bravo. Tom DiCillo. I followed Tom DiCillo on Instagram. He's on Instagram. Follow Tom DiCillo. He made Living in Oblivion and Johnny Suede, and he shot Stranger Than Paradise. I was looking at this picture he had on Instagram. It's amazing how all these film directors are on Instagram. Coppola, Jarmusch, they all love Instagram. Scorsese. And Tom DiCillo had this picture of him and Jarmusch. He shot it, and Jarmusch did sound for the William S. Burroughs movie. So they were in the bunker, and I was like, that's kind of, I don't know. I shot a video there. I shot the Karen Finley reading there, you know. So this is why I came to New York, right? I came because that was, you know, when I was watching fucking Criterion Channel DVDs, or, you know, Criterion Collection DVDs, beg your pardon, not Criterion Channel. You know, Jarmusch was a guy from Ohio. He's from Akron. He moved to the fucking East Village. You know, Permanent Vacation, Stranger Than Paradise. The booklet for Stranger Than Paradise with the Luc Sante essay and the, I think it's Amy Taubin or somebody has an essay in there. You know, in My Dinner with Andre, all that shit was New York City, right? And then, bam, in comes this blast of wealth and finance energy. And so, you know, we're trying to keep the poetry alive and keep the funky, ragged poetry alive. You know, the obscene, profane, shit-talking street poetry. You know, the Jack Michelin poetry, the Jack Hirschman, the Bob Kaufman. You know, that's why I'm proud to be associated. Or, you know, the open mic circuit seems like a cool alternative to the institutionalization of everything, where there is freedom to just be who you are. You don't have to play politics like you do. You're not going to get fired. You're not going to get canceled. You're not going to lose your job. You know, you can come up and say whatever the fuck you want. I don't know. And climatizing people to not to be okay with just listening, you know. That's a reading experience to me. These are ways to spread knowledge, to ways to spread, you know, this makes more sense to me than a class. There should be a class like this where you go and everybody gets 5 minutes to just perform and stuff. I mean, I think people are looking for that in life, you know? Like, we go to these institutions, universities, because we don't necessarily, it's just easier to do it that way, you know? Like, you want to talk about books with your friends, you want to write, you want to have a writing workshop, you could easily start one. I mean, with in New York, there's a lot of poets, so that's why I live here. I mean, I've been to various cities, and as far as I can tell, New York City is still the best place to be a poet. There's still the most poets per capita here. It's a city of poets. That's important to me. And just smart people that are intelligent listeners and intelligent, you know, in their comportment. People that are serious about writing, literary people. You come to New York to live the literary life. Now it's all in Bushwick. It's all in Park Slope. You know, when I go to those neighborhoods, that's where I feel like, okay, these are where all the serious, you know, when I'm in Graham Stop or, you know, that's when you're like all the, what was the thing? Gowanus, Books Are Magic. You know, that's where all that, like, literary life is. But, or it seems that way. I don't know. It's all over the place. That's the beauty of New York. There's poets reading in Queens. There's poets in all over New Jersey. There's open mics, and you know. So we're trying to set something up uptown. You know, we're touring the city. You know, we want to go to different places. We're going to Yale, of course. I'm excited to play Hellphone. I've wanted to do Hellphone for years. God, I wanted to play Hellphone for years. Finally. it was like it was a goal of mine to play Hellphone, so I'm gonna do something special. I mean, I'm trying to work out my. Whoops. We're gonna go over here for a second, everybody. We're gonna take a little trip. I'm trying to work out my act, trying to figure out how to get quiet on stage, not yell at everybody all the time. Trying to figure out what how to break through. I don't know the culture. Everybody, are podcasts serious? They're too like Office. Everything feels like The Office. Everything feels like Steve Carell, John Krasinski, B.J. Novak. I feel like these people dominate the vibe of our culture. I've been getting into Wes Anderson, Rushmore recently, revisiting that, and that music, that Mark Mothersbaugh music, just became all of the video production music. Every commercial has these like lutes and shit. Dun, dun, dun. The Max Fisher. I mean, Max Fisher is really a magical character and a great screen character. That it was so great that all of the music for all video production sounds like they're trying to do that, and it's like The Office. The Office feels like Twee, right? Twee came out of that. That was like proto Twee. So we're talking about literature and how to make the culture serious. I mean, one of the things that I liked about Wes Anderson films, or Rushmore and Tenenbaums in particular, is they felt like books, right? They felt literary. Is that lame? I don't know. I guess that's a safety blanket. That's why I've been not reading for the last few years. I've been trying to live as a rustic, as one of the roughs, just out sleeping out in nature, without the safety blanket. I'm somebody, I can barely walk to the bathroom without a book. If I can barely walk across the room, I have to take 2 or 3 books with me everywhere. So I've been trying to sort of let that go a little bit. Living the literary life in Brooklyn, I don't know if I can be taken seriously as one of those people. When I read Volume 1 Brooklyn or The New Yorker, or when I see these people, I'm like, I think I'm like caught between, right, like entertainment, show business, and literary. Like, that's why KGB is the ultimate place, right? Because that's what it is. It's beautiful. It's literary show business. But I don't think that should discredit you as a writer. I think people should take what I'm doing seriously. I think people should take this seriously. This is how I've been doing writing, right, for the past few years. This is shit that I would typically do into a notebook. If this was 10 years ago, I'd be doing this into a notebook. Instead of spending 2 hours, live streaming and sort of trying to push out verbal content on the fly, spontaneous bot prosody, and teaching. This is what teaching is like, I suppose. If I had a class, this is what it would be. Just me ranting at you for 2 hours. And you take what you want, You don't have to agree with everything. You have to love everything. You have to like and subscribe and watch my other videos and watch my stand-up comedy special. But you don't have to agree. It's just meant to get the ball rolling. That's what it's all about. That's what all art is about. It's just meant to get you thinking. I'm not trying to impress and force my interpretation of my experience on you. I'm just trying to give you the tools to think about your own life and to vibe out and to give you some nice sounds. One of the videos on my, it's the Poetry Hoo-Ha. It's in the fall syllabus. It's required viewing. Students of English 597 advanced open mic, poetics. Advanced self-publishing. Advanced chapbook self-publishing. Poetry Hoo-Ha. It's a video of reading Ken Kesey hosted, I think on like his farm or something in Oregon in the 70s. And it's a lot of the kind of Naropa people. I read Cuckoo's Nest in college. I liked it, definitely, but I've never been like a huge Ken Kesey freak or anything. Maybe I should get into, I've never read Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test or any of that stuff. But this video is pretty interesting. Ann Waldman's in it. Jack Michelin is in it. Bob Kaufman's in it. Of course, Allen Ginsberg and Peter Orlovsky are in it. But one of the amazing moments in it is, this is like, I think it was 1976 or 77. And there's a moment where they're talking to William S. Burroughs, and they're like on this farm, they're outside. And they pan over to the crew, and one of the dudes there is Bill Murray. Bill Murray's got a fucking mustache, and it's like, it's probably right when he first started on Saturday Night Live. Like, he probably wasn't that famous at that point. But they probably knew, like, okay, this guy's cool and he's going to be famous or whatever. But I was like, that's pretty fucking crazy to see this clip of Bill Murray interacting with William S. Burroughs in like 1976. And he's pretty cool. He's like, he interacts with them just like anybody. He's just like, because the guy's got this Portapack camera, where he's filming it, which is like a big, it's like almost like a fucking broadcast camera or something, like a news camera. And Bill Murray's like, have you ever used one of these things before? And Burroughs is like, I think I've used. And so he hands him the camera, and so you're seeing it from William S. Burroughs, what William S. Burroughs is filming. It's a pretty good shot, actually. It's kind of interesting. It's more like a group composition. And so it's kind of, it's almost like that Fried Diamonds or whatever the fuck that video is. It's just this big country-ass poetry reading. There's all this funky bluegrass music and kind of Harry Smith-style music. And I'm not sure if Wavy Gravy was there. But Wavy Gravy, of course, was one of the Merry Pranksters. And I should talk about Wavy Gravy specifically because he was a poet in the Gaslight and an MC. He was the MC at Woodstock. His name was Hugh Romney when he worked at the Gaslight in the 50s. And he was like an MC there. Bob Dylan talks about him in Chronicles, right? Talks about how he wrote Harder Rain or something in Hugh Romney's apartment above the Gaslight. I don't know. Are we just historians living in their wake? Are we just trying to ride their coattails or get in on the fumes of the very end of that? I mean, I don't know. Not that I have any illusion about the 21st century being some kind of superhuman hippie commune or anything. But I think people are, this is a way for people to start to have more fun and to empower themselves. I think a lot of what we've been sold since the beginning of this century is just like, you got to buy credentials, you got to buy, lessons, equipment, whatever it is. You got to buy into whatever your dream or your identity is. You got to go to college. You have to go to some kind of institution. You have to have a lot of money. You have to have budget. It has to be commercial. And I think people should just start with whatever they have and just work on whatever the fuck their ideas are. No matter how bad your content is. And we're just in a sea of middling content. This very much included, right? I'm the king of just way too much over content. Just over posting, over sharing. It's for the archive, okay? This is going to be really interesting, I think, in 20 years. That's what I'm banking on. I wish I had a more immediate pathway to success, but
So it's raining right now as we speak, and apparently we're going to do the Weezer play. I mean, it's not thundering, I guess. The show must go on. The band shell is kind of sheltered, but could we do it indoors someplace? Can we get an alternate venue? I mean, I don't necessarily think we need to force it to happen. I just have so much shit coming up this week. I got to move all my shit out of the storage. We're going to Yale. Oh God, I've been hiding from my emails. I'm super stressed about my teeth, or I've got a wisdom tooth coming in uninvited, and I feel like there's a ticking time bomb. But I'm also a naturalist, and I don't really believe in modern medicine. And so I believe the body will take care of itself. I think, we've had wisdom teeth for thousands of years. Have they been pulling wisdom teeth for thousands of years? I'm not sure. Maybe they have, but these things probably happen for a reason. It's just same thing with I was reading this interview with a person I know from Columbus who's a hairstylist, for all this famous shit, and they were asking what is the number one thing you would tell people about their hair, and she said, do not wash it every day. Your hair has natural oils and stuff that naturally clean it out, right? Here, do I sound like Russell Brand? I think there's truth to that. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. There's some things that, I don't think all modern medicine is designed to just, kill you. There are certain things I might embrace or utilize, like antibiotics But I also think it comes down to living healthy, okay? You want to treat yourself well. Oh, I am all over the place in this live stream. I apologize. Do people want their money back? Shout out to my new fans in South Dakota. Yeah, so the Weezer play. I don't know. I'm inspired to be writing scenes again. But it's work. It is work. Part of the point of my whole poetic process was to take the work out of it. Not to take the work out of it. The work is always happening. And let the work just kind of naturally find its level. The work is always happening. Just let it fall into your notebook. I'm not going to sit down and force myself to write 3.5 hours a day like Stephen King in the trance state. I'm going to live in the trance state. And the poetry is always happening. The magic is always happening. And we capture it in different ways. Sometimes we capture it on video. Sometimes we capture it in our heads. Sometimes it's a moment between friends. I think between poets, conversation is a poem, and being with each other is a big part of the work. Converse to being a novelist or something. Being another kind of a writer, so much about it is about being alone, and you can spend all your time alone maybe. But I don't know. Poetry is like a sensitivity, and you're learning how to divine, and so your experiences and what you allow yourself to be led to is a big part of what can lead to, you might have a conversation with somebody for an hour and all of a sudden you have all this inventory to put in a poem because of you talked about all these things that were interesting. You have something to write about, right? Whereas if you spent the whole afternoon by yourself, I'm totally an advocate of just doing things to have things to write about. I don't know. I've always been obsessed with wanting to be a writer, being a writer. Am I a real writer? I don't know, the Paris Review, the New Yorker, you need to be legitimized by publication, you need to be legitimized by editors, by institutions, by prizes, by grants, by readership, by who's reading you, by who's blurbing you. I'm a loser on all accounts. I don't know, to be honest, I did sort of start poetry late. I didn't really start seriously doing it until I was 23. So doing these plays and stuff is interesting because, that's what I was spending my time doing when I was in college, was writing plays, writing screenplays, trying to come up with ideas for movies. And so, I was under the gun a little bit to finish this play. I doubt if they thought that I could do it or would do it, because I was so bad about the email correspondence. But this is just how I do everything. I don't know. I have to pull things together at the last minute. And I think poetry teaches that. Poetry teaches that you can take one pass at a thing. And in fact, doing things in one sitting, in one location, it's one way of making a finished product. We're so caught up, and I grew up in this commercialized world of multi-track recording studios, perfected, electric light orchestra, the fucking Beatles, whatever it is, Hollywood movies that seem, they're sweetened by sound effects, by Foley artists, by whatever it is. There's a million different ways they do to make it that's really appealing to us. I think that was like this discovery of pop art, is like all that packaging and all the trimmings. That stuff is like, to me, to some degree, multi-track recording is like an illusion, right? You're not actually hearing one sound. You're hearing 24 different sounds that have been manipulated to sync up to sound like they're one sound. No one cares about that, really. But it's hard as a live act to compete with things that are done in a studio, or with that more kind of like deliberate production process. That was something that always defeated me. In my early 20s, making movies or trying to make music. It just, the logistics of the equipment and finishing it. Whereas, like, writing felt very manageable. It felt like it stops at your notebook, really. And so, budget and things, not so much of an issue. But it's also like, filmmaking is a social activity in most instances, like watching the Godfather commentaries, right? The thing about these movies, watching the commentary was a little bit like a magician exposing his tricks, because he talks about how they shot a lot of stuff second unit, like all the stuff with the horse head, they shot second unit, and it wasn't using Gordon Willis and all this, and so you start to see, like, the first movie especially, you start to see, like, the second movie is really just a version of the first movie. That's what he says. He says a lot of the scenes in the second movie were just like repetitions of the first movie, or they grew out of scenes, which it doesn't feel that way when you're watching it, One of the things that really makes The Godfather work, I feel like, is the touches, the cinematography, the lighting. There's one scene where there's like a character making sauce, and the character like describes how to make the sauce. You got to fry the sausages, and you got to put wine in it, and this and that, garlic and peppers and all this shit. And Coppola's like, even if the movie was bad, I wanted there to be a good recipe in the movie. Like, so he put this recipe in the movie as like a personal touch. You know, he wanted the movie to sort of be a cookbook. He wanted it to carry that. It's stuff like that. The themes, America, family, the music. I mean, of course, the performances, right? The actors. He gets the best. He gets Nino Rota. He gets Marlon Brando. You know, the story itself. I don't know. There is like an American obsession with the mafia, and it's one of our like modern day heroes, like cowboys or whatever. And a lot of these masterpiece films are centered around the mafia and the drama of that, the life and death circumstances. You know, when I was in college, it was The Sopranos, right? That was sort of the version of that was going on at that time. This like Italian Renaissance masterpiece, Scorsese, Coppola, Scarface, The Sopranos. You know, like those fucking posters you always see at like pizza places. It's like some kind of like pencil drawing of like there's fucking Tony Montana and Tony Soprano and Paulie Walnuts and Joe Pesci, and they're all like partying together in a bar. You know, I wanted to make more personal films. I guess all the new wave films are about gangsters, right? All Godard's films are about guns and thieves and being on the lam, but so, you know, writing the screenplay now, trying to, you know, this play has got me kind of psyched. Maybe I should just keep writing plays, but a movie just feels like you just have to do it now. I mean, I loved recording the play, and I do think film theater actually is one of the things that really works on YouTube. This guy who I did plays with in Columbus, Shakespeare plays, outdoor, you know, they would film those plays. They were Columbus, Ohio community theater. It was actors theater, so it was like semi-professional. We got paid. I got paid $200, you know. It was 4 weeks of shows, 4 shows a week, and, you know, rehearsals, 5 weeks or something. So it was a lot of work, but you did get paid. It was awesome. I loved doing that stuff. It was definitely one of the most romantic things I did in my life. In a seminal educational experience. But, you know, they would film these shows with, like, you know, what was for Columbus, Ohio, like professional video equipment at the time. With, you know, we had headset mics and shit. We'd have to tape our fucking microphone on every night, like cover it in makeup and shit. I was already screaming, of course. I was already getting shit from the critics for that, but howling like a fucking pound puppy. And so he posts these fucking plays on YouTube. You know, he posts our version of, you know, the Scottish play and Julius Caesar and this and that. And they get like hundreds of thousands of views. Because I'm sure people in schools watch them. Because they're, you know, Shakespeare's in public domain. And these are, you know, they're well filmed. The sound is good. You know, it's professional quality audio. So it's like, it's fair game on YouTube, right? It's, you know, it's also like, you know, you're not going to be able to see, I don't know, you're going to have to pay for any kind of like serious Hollywood intellectual property. But I think that's cool. You know, I think it's cool that you can go on YouTube and watch community theater productions of Neil Simon plays or whatever. I mean, do people post short films to YouTube? I'm not really sure. It might not be, you know, it's all on Vimeo, but I want to make films for Instagram. That's my dream. I want to make widescreen posts that are scenes, and then maybe build the movie like one scene at a time. The problem with the fucking movies, you just have to keep track of so many different things. A 10-minute play, you just boom and it's over. You can remember everything for 10 minutes, but a screenplay, it's like, oh god, you got to keep track of this has to lead to this, and then you know, you got to come up with more and more and more scenes. And it's like the production. It's like you got to get locations, you got to get actors. I don't know. These are economics, right? Your economics are your aesthetics. I'm afraid to spend any money. You know, and to be honest, I'm satisfied with my vlogs. My vlogs are like all I'm trying to do in a fucking movie anyway. I'm trying to film real conversation and writing. You know, you're writing on video. You're writing by conversing. If I'm filming a scene with Ashley and myself, you know, I'm drawn to people that write good dialogue and who create magic. You know, I need to be with people who are combing the streets for moments of life and poetry. People who can jam. People who are down and who write good dialogue. I mean, I don't ever want to do improv again. I don't know. I saw UCB is coming back to Avenue A and 13th, which is cool. I will definitely check it out. But I don't know. I also feel like improv culture is a dead end. Maybe. I don't know. I think with poetry, with open mic, it's an interesting challenge to write a text by yourself in front of an audience, which is what writing is and literary forms are more typically like. You know, when you're reading a book, when you're reading a poem, typically you're getting one voice, one narrator, probably, or at least, you know, one author, right? That's one of the things that's interesting about film or, you know, Wes Anderson, Owen Wilson. I do think that there was a necessary collaboration happening there where they could nix each other's bad ideas and blend their good ideas. You know, I was watching the first scene of Rushmore, the hardest geometry problem in the world. Oh, what's that? Oh, don't pay any attention to that. That's probably the hardest geometry problem in the world. No one, I've never seen anyone solve it, including my mentor, Dr. Leakey at MIT. And of course, Max, this is his teenage fantasy about, you know, what it's like to be cool. This is his prepubescent. This is what people dream about before they figure out what sex is. I don't know. We still dream about that stuff, but I mean, solving the hardest geometry problem in the world, you want to be the smartest kid in the class. You know, you're still like feeling out your intelligence. And like at that point, you think that might be possible. You might be like, yeah, I might be such a genius. I could just do this. And then over the years, you realize, okay, maybe I'm not some freak. Maybe I'm just another snowflake in the blizzard. Okay? We're all identical. The snowflakes are all identical. Unless you look up close, then we're all beautiful. Should I go back to my... Yeah, let me go back to my... Let me sage. What the hell was I talking about? Watch the According to Jim clips. I don't even know what the hell this is. I don't know, trying to reconcile all these things. You know, I was such a snowflake, I thought I could do everything. I thought I could be a film director and a writer and you know, fucking be in the band and I still do that, all those things. Why the fuck not, you know? It's all expression, it's all synergy, it's all one thing. It's all our senses, right? They all meld. They're not actually separate. You know, sound and vision, touch, color, we're not separate. It's all just, we're all one united
there isn't actually separation, you know. We're all made of the same stuff on a molecular level, on a deep interior level. And the periodic table of elements. See, I'm trying to show video games. I'm trying to pander to the internet audience. I'm now a video game live streaming channel, okay? I'm going to live stream myself playing Team Fortress Classic. And Wolfenstein 3D. I'm going to get a Wolfenstein 3D. Okay, this guy gave me this TV. I was at my fucking storage yesterday. And I had my shopping cart. I got 2 loads real fast. And as I was leaving, right before the place closed, they close at 7. I'm going out. This guy's got his TV next to his U-Haul, just sitting on the ground with the remote control. He's like, "You want this TV?" And I've been, look at this fucking... Okay, first of all, look at this entertainment center. This is the worst piece of furniture I've ever seen in my life. These shelves are completely unusable. Look at these fucking shelves. They're all different heights and, they're all completely non-functional. And it's huge, and it's heavy, and it's impossible to take apart. It's not like IKEA, where it's like you just, it's all slots and shit. No, it's like all this shit's like wood screws. This thing probably weighs 300 pounds. If this came crashing down, we'd all die. It's like a coffin. This thing is literally like having a fucking sarcophagus flying in my fucking... So anyway, it's clearly designed for a television. I mean, what else could you possibly fucking put there? This is the scourge of my life, and all of modern life is like this in a way, where it's just like it's totally unfunctional, it's ugly, it's heavy, it's a pain in the ass, it's expensive, and the only thing you can put there is a TV. Like, what the fuck else? You cannot put anything, I don't know, maybe plants or something. So anyway, it's like the room next to it is a TV. Kuji Daddy got mad at me because I was using his computer. He didn't like me use his computer for some reason. I was using it to vlog. He didn't like that, which is understandable. It's his computer. That's fine. But he's like, we'll get you a TV for your room. So it's like, I don't really want a TV. I don't like having a TV. But I do feel like I manifested it in a way like, what else could possibly go there? And so, yeah, I was rolling out my shopping cart, and the guy's like, "You want this TV?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." I was like, "Does it work?" He's like, "Yep." I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll take it." So, yeah, he gave me this fucking TV for free. So I thought, I got the son of a bitch, I might as well use it. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of, I don't know, go deeper, I guess, or learn or something. I don't know. These are all parts of the profane illumination. They're all things to study. I mean, I'm on YouTube constantly learning. I was listening to Howard Stern today interview Valerie Bertinelli. That was important to my process, okay? We're trying to combine all of these things. We're trying to make our show a total entertainment, a total artwork full of music and poetry and comedy. We have to be up to date on all these things. We have to study the legends. We have to study the greats. Showmanship, Big Top, Pee-wee, okay? Howard Stern, it's all about his staff and the people on it, and it's a comedy album they're making in the moment, but it's also a theater of the mind, and I like that. And so live verbal art, one of the things I want to do this week, sink or swim. I mean, it's the 1-year anniversary. I want to do a State of the Union. I wanted to do my big network speech, my big Ned Badian network, where I have a nervous breakdown on stage and just lay it all out there. So look forward to that. I mean, I really, talk art is really what we're doing here. Talking as a literary form. Poetry is a way of capturing speech. Vlogging is a way of capturing behavior. And the script of life. I mean, our lives are these insane fucking stories, right? I mean, constantly. And there's aspects of coincidence, and there's aspects of history and character. It's like La Grande Human Comedy. It's like Balzac, right? It's like Dickens. I like the scope of this, I want to expand into, the lives of the poets and
all of these characters, and so getting to know people, comedians, poets, musicians, you know, seeing the gallery, making sketches, making portraits, making Alice Neal portraits. You know, the open mic is definitely a Warhol screen test portrait gallery where everybody gets to sit for their screen test, and you know, we're creating an archive, an Alan Lomax field recording archive of, you know, the open mic circuit, and who knows, maybe the future Lady Gaga is on one of these tapes. You know, maybe the future Alicia Keys. I was thinking about Alicia Keys, Born in Hell's Kitchen. So, you know, it's all about pushing it out there. Thank you to my fans in South Dakota. Tell your friends, like and subscribe, watch the vlogs, watch the open mic, skim it. You know, I'm curious if people who don't attend the open mic watch the open mic, you know, or if they turn it on, they're like, whoa, this is insane, and they turn it off immediately. This guy's loud. Oh, there's my all-time favorite comedian, Kevin Meaney. The funniest comedian of all time. #1 comedian of all time, Kevin Meaney. One of my ultimate heroes. He's a lot of the reason why my stage insanity is the way it is, because he is just an energy volcano. Look at him. Look at that red jacket. He's like the ultimate 5-year-old performing for his parents in front of the fireplace after dinner. Hey, mom and dad. I'm gonna get crazy. He's off the chain. He gets more off the chain than probably any other comedian I've ever seen. Huge, massive influence. I worship Kevin Meaney. Rest in peace, Kevin Meaney. One of the all-time greatest comedian. Look at him. Look how funny he is. The suit itself is just uproariously funny. I think he's from Boston. I think. He definitely lived in Boston, or he did gigs there or something. Louis has a story. Louis C.K., the sex offender. I should preface that. Disclaimer, Louis C.K., the sex offender, he has a story. He opened for Kevin Meaney, like, real early in his career, when it was like his second gig or something. He met Kevin Meaney in, like, a store. And he was like, hey, I'm a comedian. Kevin Meaney's like, oh, come open for me. It was like, literally, he didn't want to open mic or something. Come open for me. See, that's how cool Kevin Meaney is. That's how much of a chiller Kevin Meaney is. What up? Bernie Bros out there. That's right. We're spreading the message. We need a universal basic income. So, yeah, that was the New York Times, unsurprisingly, was against universal basic income. And they agreed that work was necessary. But I do think in this country we have like a psychotic work culture that, I don't know, it should be a little, people should be allowed to do that. You know, like, I think it's not that I don't want to work. I'm constantly working. You know, this is work. This is hard work for me. No, I love doing this, but it also does feel like, I mean, the last live stream I did, I got 11 likes. So that's a lot to live up to. I'm not sure what happened. But, you know, I did feel a little pressure, because it's like, God, how am I going to do that? I mean, 3 is pretty good for a live. Thank you for whoever liked it. But I should do this more. It's just, there's been we've been just doing, so, I mean, should I talk about what the hell happened this week? Anything? Well, Tuesday was Philip's birthday reading. It was phenomenal, of course. We had a great time there. We talked about Harry Smith. Monday was back to school open mic. That was a blast. We had a guy in a straitjacket escape from the straitjacket. It was phenomenal. Ananya George. The great Ananya George, a great entertainer. Very classy. Hire him, book him for your, you know, high-class live events. Book him at City Winery.
I see all these gigs at City Winery. How do I get a gig there? Poetry reading and performance art at City Winery with noise music. Live vlog projections. It's a total happening, man. It's like the exploding plastic inevitable. We just, yeah, I mean, it's all just a big Warhol ripoff, I guess. It's tired. It's tired. We need to be on Twitch, you know. We need to be thinking forward, not writing these Elizabethan Weezer plays. Yeah, so coming up, we're going to Yale. We're excited to take the message there. Okay, what else? I don't know, how much can I hammer on this message of, like, consciousness? Books, self-publishing, live streaming. I mean, God, drop out of society and write poetry in the park for money. I think there should be more pantomime acts. In the Godfather commentary, they were talking about how Marlon Brando didn't like loud noises. So when they went to his house to do a makeup test, they didn't say anything. They just brought him cheese and Italian cigars. I don't know. I think silence and poetry are like one and the same almost. And yet I'm so loud. And I've got this constant feed of verbal. I mean, I do feel like it's weird. Like I do need like stimulation. I do need more information at all times to have things to talk about, to learn. I don't know. You never know what is going to be relevant or what's going to feed you. I watched Ken Jennings on Howard Stern. We gotta skip this. We gotta skip that. That'll probably never be useful to me in my life. It reminded me of trivia. You know, trivia is something that I used to be good at, like in school and stuff. And when they did like a trivia thing on Howard Stern, where they asked him like, who was the first president who died in office. It's like, I don't think I knew any of them. It's like, I don't know. We've outsourced that kind of stuff, right? We've outsourced like specific information. We just Google everything. And as a kid, I did read like almanacs and shit. I'd sit there and like read the almanac, and I played Carmen Sandiego. I was in the geography bee all 4 years in middle school. I was one of only 2 kids that did that. This was one of the reasons why I thought I was a smart kid, right? I was one of only 2 kids that was in the geography bee all 4 years. And the last year I was in the finals. I almost won. And it's probably because I played Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I watched it every day after school. I played it on the computer at the library. But it's like, I realized at a certain age that like just regurgitating facts was not necessarily intelligence. So I just sort of stopped learning stuff. I became more interested in art, I guess, and literature, things like that, you know, things that seem to apply to experience, seem to enrich experience, seem to model experience, you know, watching films, reading poetry, listening to music. These are like the food of experience. These are like the fruit of, you know, I mean, they're what gives our life meaning and joy, and how we understand it, and how we feel, how we relate. At least me. I don't know. I guess that's a mediated experience. As a kid, I went to media play, you know? Music, books, movies. That was my favorite fucking place. That was better than the toy store. You know, they had the 400 Blows on Criterion on DVD. Of course, take me there. I have to go there. Take me to the Virgin Megastore. You know, they've got My Dinner with Andre Criterion Collection. They've got the Eric Chase Anderson illustrated Wes Anderson Criterion DVDs. Oh my God, when I found out what the New Yorker magazine was, it's like commodified intellectualism, I guess. It's like stockbrokers of literature. But they run shit. I mean, the New Yorker, it's all the most... I don't know. I mean, what I've been thinking about more recently is like, you know, what is the place outside these institutions, you know? I think before I moved to New York, I thought I was... I don't know if I thought I was going to be like the toast of the town, like as a writer per se. But I thought as an artist maybe, I thought I'd be probably some kind of like actor, writer, filmmaker, or, you know, like James Franco. No, my hero was Wallace Shawn, right? I thought I'd kind of probably maybe have like a career like him, where like I'd be an actor in things, but then I'd actually be a writer who like wrote plays, movies, books, things, and that was like my real life. And you know, I thought maybe that would be an avenue into like the New Yorker magazine. You know, maybe in some vague way, I thought maybe I'd write some short story or something they'd publish when I was doing that. You know, that was probably the goal. Write a fucking short story that the New Yorker will publish. Become one of those authors, you know, like a fucking John Cheever. Or, who's the lady? Mavis Gallant. Don DeLillo. Don DeLillo is my favorite contemporary author. And then Michael Chabon had like a career that you were like sort of like, okay, maybe I could do that. Maybe it could be like Dave Akers, Michael Chabon. I was never into David Foster Wallace at all. I want to be on the record about that. I never read David Foster Wallace. I was slightly interested in Infinite Jest, but only because it felt kind of like it might be a Wes Anderson. The way it was like fictionalized and about tennis, I thought it might be like, oh, this could be like a Salinger, Wes Anderson thing. Maybe it could be kind of cool, but I never explored it. I never bought it. I wasn't carrying that fucking book around. Once I moved to Brooklyn, it became clear that it was like a trope of the fuckboy. So I just wasn't interested, to be honest. He never appealed to me. David Foster Wallace never appealed to me at all. He seemed satirical to me, and that did not really seem that interesting. He seemed accurate in certain things, but I don't know. I don't want to read about his addiction to TV or whatever. I don't want to consider The Lobster. Do not make me consider The Lobster, okay? I'm not BJ Novak. I think our generation, a lot of lame people got famous. A lot of safe, lame people. Like BJ Novak is in the New Yorker. They're going to publish BJ Novak's short story. Like, come on. Why is God laughing in my face in this way? It's just not fair. It's just not fair. Why him? I'm cool. He's not cool. I'm a cool person. I'm a literary maverick. I'm an outlaw living in the margins, looking outward. On a quest for the real... I don't know. I love New York literary culture, I suppose, even though there's almost no writers. Well, the writers that I feel an affinity with don't really respect me. They think I'm a fucking creep or something. I don't know. Oh, this is Boy Meets World ran for Congress. Did he win? I don't know. I don't think so. Is this a part of the show or this actually happened? Ben Savage. Jesus Christ. Anything can happen in California. Just because you were on a fucking TV show, bro, where you had writers. I don't know. Good for Ben Savage. I'd vote for him. I love Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World was like a seminal fucking show for me. It was an auto-fiction, I think. It was like our Leave It to Beaver or something. He had a hippie girlfriend, Topanga. Sean, he had a cool, that's like Brian and Weezer. He's like the Brian Bell of Boy Meets World. His cool hot friend Sean, they're just bros. But Boy Meets World guy was like Doug. He was like kind of this nervous wimp. He was a neurotic writer. He was a surrogate for like a neurotic comedy writer who was like writing a show. When I was a kid, like I watched a lot of sitcoms. I definitely watched the fuck out of, I mean, Boy Meets World was on like every network, I think. It was definitely on 2 of them. And I watched the fuck out of it. I mean, it did kind of tell the story of the cis white hetero middle school experience into high school and beyond. The flannel neurotic introspective, I don't know. I guess is Corey's an everyman to gender it. I suppose I could relate to Boy Meets World way more than I could relate to like Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell was clearly about like hot people who were like athletic and shit and cool. I was not one of those people. And Screech was like an insult. Like, come on. Screech is like an insult to nerd culture. That was not a good read of nerd culture at all. They didn't realize the power. Screech should have been like a programmer who made like, $1 billion on his startup. And laughed in all their faces while they were like on meth and shit. Zach Morris definitely would have ended up on meth with a tattoo on his face. Screech would have made a $3 billion value. He'd be Zuckerberg. Screech would have been programming on his calendar, on his calculator, on his TA86 popping pimples, and they'd have been like, fuck you, Screech. You're never getting laid. Fast forward to 10 years later, Screech is taking flying lessons. Oh, I work 10 hours a week. I'm already retired. Is Kuzu Daddy yelling at me? That's what really happened. But, Boy Meets World was more about, I don't know, some kind of fringe, vague. He wasn't really cool, per se. He was more like, I don't know, just like an independent or something. I don't really remember. I remember Mr. Feeney was kind of always sermonizing. It was like pedantic. He was in 1776. So it had this kind of weird English, erudite. Like he's Henry Higgins or Mr. Belvedere. It was kind of Mr. Belvedere. There's always these English. Mr. Matthews, I'm going to tell you about... Was that guy British? I don't know what the fuck. He was like, I guess that's why he was in 1776, because he kind of was like halfway. He was like affected like he was British, but he was probably from Massachusetts or something. I think he played John Adams, right? Or did he play Jefferson? There's no way he played Thomas Jefferson, did he? The guy from Boy Meets World. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why he's on Boy Meets World, because he has this like, I mean, he's living history. It's like having John Adams in the classroom. Mr. Matthews, let me tell you some ethical... And I don't know. I don't remember any of it. None of it stuck at all. Maybe deeply on some subliminal level it shaped all of our toxic chode values. Maybe it's what choded us at a young age, but I love Boy Meets World. I'd watch it. I mean, that's why it's on my YouTube videos. It's a tribute, really, to the autofictions of our youth. It's the Ben Lerner. It was the And I want to talk shit about Ben Lerner too, because he is the blandification. His fucking books feel like The Office. They all feel like vampires. There's no blood in any of it. At least Talon does like major drugs. It's all about MDMA and shit and filming yourself, but Ben Lerner, I don't know. I mean, where's the underground? Where's the place for the poets of the streets, Rome, who are doing it in bars in St. Louis and Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Iowa City, Iowa. Well, not there. We're going to invade Iowa. Could I get into Iowa? I doubt it. I don't think, maybe I'll just send the MFA program my live streams. Here's my application. I don't know. We want money. We want a market. How do we create a marketplace for our literature? Right? That's what we're trying to do with the videos. We're trying to monetize our YouTube accounts. We're trying to get to be video literature. We're writing every week online. And, Russell Brand has 6 million subscribers, right? We need 900,000 subscribers. I want to be a male e-girl. It's not fair. These e-girls can just get, millions of people. Well, they streamline their content. My content is a stream of consciousness. This is Dave Chappelle trying to prevent multi-use housing development in his community where he owns a lot of the property. He's get off my land type guy. He's a not in my backyard type guy. The voice of it. Well, yeah, he's our conscience, Dave Chappelle. There he is, privatizing his hometown, which was once a hippie Eden. Now it's just a big mothership, comedy mothership. So yeah, we need to combat the stand-up comedification of the American mind, okay? All these people, not that there's nothing wrong with the thing about Joe Rogan, people want to go deep. Rogan he sounds like, a jock who's on mushrooms trying to get deep. And people want that. People want to talk about aliens, or maybe not that, I don't know, but we're trying, people are looking for something deeper. They're looking for something spiritual. Everyone is looking for a spiritual experience and a God experience. And that's what this is about. That's what poetry is about. That's what self-liberation, speaking in tongues, rolling around on the floor. Maybe I'll do some speaking in tongues on Monday. I'm a huge proponent of speaking in tongues. Okay, so this is Kill Tony, right? This is the most important show in comedy. It's a open mic where you only get 1 minute, which I think is kind of actually a great idea for comedy, because I mean, as a comedian, you should at least probably have 1 minute that's like really fire. I don't know. I don't even know if I could do that. I probably couldn't do that in any medium, actually. But at least it's painless because it's over quickly if they're terrible, which is, not always the case. Anyway, I don't know. It's an example of open mic culture in a way that maybe, this is on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe YouTube is just all middle-aged and boomer people, right-wing, Alex Jones, sympathetic, RV living, people who want to go off the grid. I mean, it does seem like YouTube is mostly what? Jordan Peterson. It's like these entrepreneuring, toxic males, And so Joe Rogan, right? It all started on YouTube. Is there a big... It certainly doesn't show me the woke side of YouTube. It doesn't show me the youth, if there are Gen Z people out there. Maybe that's because it's aimed at kids or something. But, I'd rather see something that's, edgy and gonna be cool and show me tomorrow, or teach me something, than Jordan Peterson fucking videos, or, some kind of, pseudo right-wing macho insecurity complex. Incel, incelification. Anti-woman. I don't want that. Do women use YouTube? Is YouTube a safe space? Well, okay, I do get my analytics. I think my audience is about exactly half and half on average. So, we love our female viewers and non-binary identifying viewers, and we want this to be a safe space of learning as well as teaching. I wish other people had YouTube channels where they live streamed, and
there were there were it's just the most immediate way to podcast, you know. I suppose I should get like my shit together with a podcast, but like there's just so many hoops you got to jump through with, like, you got to get this all this weird kind of IP or something, and you know, certain graphic and this and that and yada yada yada. And YouTube, I literally just press the button at my bottom of my screen, I'm on. They want to make it very easy for you to provide intimate surveillance of yourself for them at all times. I mean, I could literally fucking YouTube my entire life if I wanted to. Just leave it running. But, yeah, so we're coming up on the 1 year of the... Well, it has been a year. We've done... I think I've done 50 shows. This will be 51, I think. Straight. The only week we missed, and we were on the day after Christmas and the day after New Year's. The only week we missed, and Memorial Day and Labor Day. We were on all the holidays. Martin Luther King Day, all the Monday holidays. President's Day. Because we love it. We do it because it's fun as fuck. Why would we not? You know, this is an example of work that we're happy to do, right? I'm happy to go and do this. It's fun as hell. And it feels, you know, just awe-inspiring and educational to see all these performers, see all these writers, all these comedians, all these musicians, bam, 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 stagecraft, see what works, see who's good, see, you know, and be around people that are good, you know, try to compete, try to fit in, try to hold your own, you know. Most people, I mean, not to talk shit or anything, but most people that have ever come to the open mic hold their own. But there are some people occasionally that kind of buckle. And that's okay. That's definitely a part of the experience. But, you know, the idea being to get everybody doing their best and everybody at least comfortable enough to, like, execute what they came to execute, you know. Or explore what they came to explore. You know, I think that's one of the most fun things about the open mic, too, is giving people space to just try something. You know, maybe they didn't rehearse it to death and they don't really know what they're going to do. But they have a weekly place they can go that's like a workshop that, you know, they can fail, or you don't even have to look at it that way. You know, you can just try something. One of my favorite things that not that many people do is when more than one person performs at once. You know, when musicians play together, or when people bring people up from the audience. You know, people do that less than you think. Usually at an open mic, people go up alone, which is great. I love that. That's like the essence of it. It's a soliloquy. And it's a way to give people attention, you know? I think people do, it's like a basic human need. People do need attention. And this is like a way of feeding that, you know? I think the fear of public speaking is definitely overblown. Not that it's not real, but people are really more afraid of public speaking than dying. Like, get real. Let's just be honest about what is actually harmful, you know? Getting in front of people and, you know, trying something artistic or singing or reading a poem you wrote or dying. What's more potentially harmful? I don't know. What's scarier? Really? What's scarier, really? I think it's dying. I think the fear of public speaking can be easily overcome. Not that it's for everybody. It took, well, not easily. It took me years. The reason why, the biggest reason why I'm so late
to be doing this is because of like a kind of a stage fright. Like I was always on stage, but I was always like trying to do what fit into other things. You know, I was trying to be in plays or learn, you know, take classes, have them teach me how to do it the right way rather than just doing things. I mean, I was always doing stuff, but the classes were limiting, I think, actually. Um, and, you know, to some degree, it's all learning, but do your own stuff, you know? Just you your own ideas. I think that's the best way to do it, you know? Just do your whatever the fuck your ideas are. Like we're in such a you need validation or you need a school or you need accreditation, you need to pass some kind of test to be valid or to be, and it's like to be an authority. It's like, well, what gave people sitting on their fucking porch playing spoons or something like a valid accreditation, you know? They just did it because that was their fucking what they did with their time, you know? What the fuck else do I need to talk about? I do want to go maybe a few more minutes. um, you know, hopefully what we can do here is create a new kind of culture and business. You know, these rock bands and shit, that whole industry, that was just something that happened. Playing arenas and shit, that was just something that happened, that they figured out how to build the plane as they were flying it, you know? Like City Lights books, the Beat Generation, that was like a cultural phenomenon that inspired people to be writers or to read, to be poets, really, right? And I think there's still that desire, and there are poets all over this country. And this is what people are finding through these open mics, through things like TikTok. You know, to me, the open mic, one of the things that's reinvigorated it and given it a new meaning is TikTok. You know, you had suddenly, after the pandemic, all of these people that had made money and become sort of famous on TikTok who were living in New York City, and yet they really actually, or podcasting, or, you know, some kind of online thing. Influencers, Instagram people. These are people who got famous online, who maybe hadn't performed live that much, or hadn't even developed, you know, somebody like Annie Hamilton, right? I think got famous like on Instagram, and then started doing live shows after the pandemic. And so now there's all these people that are professional, whatever the fuck it is they do, influencers, or they make money from selling their designs or their clothes or whatever the fuck it is, and or their music. They're touring artists that have a following on fucking Spotify. They get on some Spotify playlist or whatever. And but they want to play live, you know. Everybody is in this hustle now. Everybody is like self-promoting their art on the internet. That is where we give, that is like the theater in the space where most people, at least most artists, have some kind of presence. And that's like the theater where they promote, display their art to at least some degree. Instagram pictures, they share whatever it is they're doing through some kind of fucking social media. And so having, people who've recorded music in their bedroom, or the open mic. I mean, I know for me that was the way that I started playing in college. It wasn't the way I started, but it's always a place you can go. It is like a gym. It's always a place you can drop in, get on stage, get experience, get in front of people, share. It doesn't always have to be looked at like it's some kind of workout or something. It is an end of itself. I think that's one of the things that's cool about poetry open mics, is a lot of times that's all it is. It's just people get together, they read their poetry to each other, and that's beautiful. It's a beautiful ritual. There's something about creating the circle and sharing. It's magic. That is the stuff. It's like church. It's like worship. It's like being. You're just humming, And that's what we all want. I think we all want to live in that. We all want to be professional. Whatever it is we're trying to do, comedians, writers, musicians. But at the same time, that is like morphing beneath our feet, like the publishing industry. It's all been shaken up. Journalism, film industry, television industry. It's all being disrupted, right, by the technology, and you're having to adapt to things like live streaming, being on TikTok. How do you live a literary life? It doesn't have quite the same texture. The YouTube live stream isn't exactly the same as like a yellowed paperback. Although maybe we could work a little harder to give it that effect. With my playlists, with the vlogs, it is just that's like the literature, right? All of it. Watch the streams, watch the vlogs, listen to the poetry, get my books, see my live shows. It all connects. Like Ashley said in her story, my life is one big production that she stumbled upon. And trying to bridge all that stuff and use all of it. Use vlogs as a way to transmit the poetry, as a way to, that's the ideal. The ideal would be people in places that aren't New York, all over the world, would watch and be like, okay, this is what the life of a poet, MC, performer in present day New York is like. This is what it looks like. These are the shows. But there's also commentary on society, relationships. But it's like a Terrence Malick shot on an iPhone, right? It's transcendental. It isn't meant to be overproduced. It's meant to feel a little bit natural and unmediated and kind of naked and just kind of spooling, like a ribbon in the wind. So I don't know, do we really get to any truth about modern society and modern humanity? I mean, I don't necessarily think there's a sameness. Everybody is so customly tailored to. It's not quite as such a broad demographic brush anymore. There's micro influencers, and
I think having a bunch of followers online is not necessarily influence. You know, the people that really influence the culture are the ones who are imitated, who, uh, you know, we're trying to exemplify sort of, this is like a starter kit for anybody, right? That's really what I'm trying to do with my writing. It's not about me being a great writer. It's about anybody can do this. And so start an open mic, go to open mics and read, meet other poets, do whatever it is, do comedy, do music, do all of it, film it. Uh, you know, if you have a job, film that. It's not bad to have a job. Having a part-time job can be fun, you know, and being social, you know, if you can make your social time artistic, uh, that's multitasking. That's productivity. That's more money. That's more growth. That's more GDP. That's more per diem. Or keeping an eye on the weather. I mean, it's just kind of drizzling right now. It's not really raining, but I don't. I mean, Ashley got this play in the Columbia fucking newsletter, and we have been advertising it all week. I'm not really sure. Okay, so I don't know. It's free special effects, I guess. I don't really want to go all the fucking way uptown. It's gonna rain like pretty much all weekend into Monday though, so it's like I kind of. I do just kind of want to stay here and read, and you know, go into my monastic seclusion and study and feed my brain. You know, that was the line I had in this poem, feeding my brain with pages. I do feel like I need to learn, and there has been such a push to be out doing all these shows. I mean, the summer concert series. I really, like I said last time, I really am proud of all the shows that we've done. It with the time that we've had in July, August, September. It's gonna, you know. Well, now I'm preparing to go back to work. You know, I have to film this thing Tuesday. There's poetry project stuff coming up. I'm not exactly sure when, but I'm gonna have to do that. And so I don't want to overload myself. We're going to Yale next weekend. I got 3 shows before that. I got to move all the stuff out of my storage. And so going and doing the Weezer play in the middle of a subtropical nor'easter, I don't know. I don't want to jeopardize any of those future events, you know. Well, okay, is there anything else I need to discuss or cover? Thank you for watching. Come to the 1 year. I mean, the 1 year anniversary is action packed. There's a lot of people signed up already. They've still got more people signing up. I want it to be just a huge, huge, huge gathering of the superstars, and so I don't want to turn anybody away. It'll be a big show. So hopefully this will be the beginning of, you know, the open mic is just, it's a laboratory for people to come and do their thing. And so I always hope that they're, you know, I don't want it to get stale. I always want, you know, I'm hoping that it will grow and will become bolder this year and figure out how to do more with it. You know, maybe we could get more out of filming things there. Maybe we could just get bolder with, you know, what we do at the beginning. Now I'm writing these scenes. Maybe we could do scenes. Maybe we could do skits. Do bigger ideas. Try new things. I want to do more talk pieces. You know, that's something I really haven't explored. I mostly just read. I've gotten into this thing where I will typically play like a song and then like read over it, because that's kind of a recurring thing at the open mic. Ashley always reads over music, and there's a lot of people that have pre-recorded tracks and stuff. And so like it just feels like that's the easiest way to sort of like get the energy going and get things kind of get the ice broken. But I also want to read poetry, so I'm always reading over it. It's also just an experimental form. It's sort of like the Lou Reed Street hassle, right? How he graffitis over his own song. That's what I try to do with my reading slash, karaoke. But I do feel an obligation to go big at the beginning, to just help everybody to relax. Maybe that's not actually relaxing. Maybe it just scares the shit out of everybody. But, like I said, through the next year, we will figure out how to just explore. We'll do more stuff. We'll try more stuff. Now we'll have, I think we'll have a pretty good audience every week. So we're trying to make this thing blow up, right? We're trying to make this just sweep the nation, like it's Urban Cowboy or something. Everybody across the whole United States going to be doing crazy open mics, screaming to backing tracks, reading their notebook poetry. Right next to comedians, right next to cabaret singers. It's getting wild, getting intellectual. The atmosphere is getting heady. It's the Cedar Tavern. It's the 5 Spot. It's Max's Kansas City. It's the Orchidea. It's Cafe La Metro. The list goes on. It's the Gaslight. Onward and upward with the arts, The New Yorker isn't what it used to be. We have to make our own. Once again, it's just like that's why I dress like a professor. It's like, this is real to me. This is a way of making it real. If I dress like it's 1958 and I'm Bennett Cerf or whatever, I don't even know who that is. If I dress like Malcolm Cowley or Mark Van Doren or Seymour Glass, it's not about bringing that back. It's just like, it's part of the cosplay. Everybody's cosplaying everything. Just be whatever you want. You want to be a poet? Sure, okay. You want to be a filmmaker? Just do it all. Just get the clothes and get the self-promotion. As long as it looks right. That's all that matters. Come to the All-Stars. I mean, we've got big names on Monday. I'm going to have some shifts to close us out. I'm not sure what's going on with the Weezer play. I'll have to talk to them. I'll have to check the weather. We're monitoring the situation. This is a game day decision. We're going to have to make the call, after time. It's a game day decision. It might still be raining at that point. We did announce this. I don't want to disappoint the fans. But we're going to have to just keep an eye on the situation and continue to just watch out, for any kind of new patterns that might develop. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I know it's been about books. It's been about literature. The self-publishing revolution that's happening here in New York. The open mic revolution, the open mic life. We got to go on tour. We got to go to every city in this country. We're taking the open mic across the country, just like Bernie. And We're going to bring poetry and fun and happiness and growth and culture and light and good vibes and cooperation and hard-hitting truth. Real truth, not these conspiracy theories, not these lunatic fringe. People are looking for what's really going on, or they can tell that they're being bought and sold, but they don't really understand how at all. They're trained to think that everything that's bad for them is good, and that anybody that tries to change anything is the enemy. You know, they're just trained to just hate anything that will help them, and to worship anything that's bad for them. Like the government. Fuck the government. Fuck welfare. Anyway, we're trying to affect those. That's why we're on goddamn YouTube. So people in West Virginia, where they have rural broadband that costs $53,000, people who are giving up their traditional televisions, the older generations who are being phased out in the Soylent Green controlled life cycles, the controlled lifespans. Within 10 years, we will have a cure for death. The Silicon Valley people will all be immortal. I'm glad Taylor Swift is getting political. That's phenomenal. It was always political. I mean, Taylor Swift is no different than any of these other high-powered New York elite people in publishing or film. They all believe in progress. Okay, so anyway, thank you for watching. Come to any of the events this week. There's just so much going on. So check out the vlogs, check out the past content. Everything is a plug, everything is hype, everything is self-promotion. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter, even though I don't use it. Add me on Facebook. Send me an email. Just don't try to talk to me in real life. Do not approach me in person. No, I'm just kidding.